Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF World Champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 343 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week, my man?
I'm doing good, Bob. How about you, Joe?
I'm doing well, my friend. I'm doing well. Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. We're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. Really just the one event to go over. So I'm going to fly through the undercard to start with. Of course, it is that card that took place at the T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada. Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. It was on DAZN. Let's start with the undercard, like I said. Mark Castro with a win. He's now 7-0. A unanimous decision over 6 rounds against Pedro Vicente, who's now 7-5 with a draw. Zhilei Zhang now 24-0 with a draw. A KO in the first round against late replacement Scott Alexander, who's now 16-5 with 2 draws. As we said on last week's show, Zhilei Zhang was set to take on Filip Hrgović. Father passed away, so in stepped Scott Alexander, who I don't know had really even trained. But anyway, he got banged out in a round and made Zhilei Zhang look good. Shakram Giasov with a win on points, unanimously over 10. He's now 13-0. He was able to beat Christian Gomez, who's now 22-3 with a draw. That one was for the vacant IBF North American welterweight title. Gomez was down in the 4th round, the 7th round, and the 10th round. He did have a couple of moments himself, to be honest, but Giasov had way too much in the arsenal for Gomez. Montana Love with a win. He's now 18-0 with a draw. It was for the IBF North American Super-Lightweight title. Gabriel Valenzuela was the loser in this one, 25-3 with a draw. He was down in the first round, Valenzuela. Then Montana Love goes down in round 2, and my pick for this fight was that Montana Love would win on points. So when he knocks a guy down in the first round, I'm thinking, oh, maybe not. Then when he gets knocked down himself in round 2, I'm thinking, whoa, this really isn't going the distance. But it did. Like I say, he was down heavy, that second round knockdown. Love was down heavy, but like I say, it ended up going the distance, and Montana Love won, and he is still on a bit of a run. He's got a lot of momentum behind him. And yeah, moving straight to the main event, Canelo now 57-2 with 2 draws. Dimitri Bivol 20-0, still undefeated, still the WBA Super World Light Heavyweight Champion. Unbelievable. Scorecards completely unanimous and all exactly the same. 115, 113. Tim Cheatham, Dave Moretti, and Steve Weisfeld. We don't always see the judges, agree. We see them disagree a hell of a lot. For them to have it scored exactly the same is a good thing, I guess. Really, it means that it's a good thing, and for them to have it unanimous as well to the rightful winner, Dimitri Bivol. Brilliant. I'm glad that there wasn't any controversy on the cards, but still didn't think it was as close as 7-5 for Bivol, which is what that amounts to. Especially after they announced that the judges all had it 4-0 for Canelo after the first 4 rounds. That's incredible to me. I'm going to run through what I saw of the fight. Round 1 I felt was a really hard round to score. And I will be honest, by the way, I will just say the first 4 rounds, they were hard rounds to score. they were hard rounds to score. They were close rounds, but there's no way in the world you could give all 4 to Canelo for me. So back to what I was saying. Round 1, really hard round to score, very fast-paced round, unusual round 1 for a Canelo fight, I guess, because Canelo came out much more aggressively than I'd seen him start fights before. I think I edged around just to Bivol, pretty much off of his jab. Round 2, another really hard round to score. Canelo trapped Bivol on the ropes a couple of times, but Bivol was able to keep Canelo on the end of his shots for the most part. I again gave the round to Bivol, but I kind of wanted to go back in time and give the first round to Canelo, because again it was so nip and tuck, but I would have gave the first 2 to Bivol in all honesty. So yeah, 2-0 to Bivol, to Bivol, or 1-1, however you want to see that. I've not really got an issue. I just don't think you can give the first 2 to Canelo. Round 3, as I said, another close round. Canelo was definitely starting to get a bit closer. He landed a couple of those nice signature uppercuts. Bivol was taking a lot of shots on the gloves though. Bivol, for me again though, I felt just did enough to edge it. So again, I felt that it could be all 3 rounds to Bivol, but I can understand why some people could maybe have it 2-1 to Canelo. And already I've noted that scores were going to be all over the place at that point, because some people had it 3-0 for Canelo, certainly the judges. Round 4, another really close round, but for me, Bivol once again was keeping that tight guard. Nothing was really landing cleanly on him, and Bivol was still letting his hands go in combinations. So again, I gave it to Bivol. Round 5, I felt was a clear Bivol round. The accuracy was laser-like. Bivol even put Canelo on the ropes and nailed him with several big shots. Canelo was showing a great chin, which we know he possesses, and Bivol was starting to, show off that confidence that really had been there all along, but it was starting to really shine through, and the discipline as well was excellent. Round 6, again I gave to Bivol. I was shocked to hear that Sean Porter had the fight 3-2 for Canelo after 5 rounds, especially something that I should mention, Canelo landed 6 punches in round 6. Round 7, another Bivol round clearly for me, and again I was stunned by how disciplined he was. He was incredible. Again, very brief notes on this. Round 8, a clear Bivol round once again. Canelo's mouth was beginning to open wide. He was needing to breathe deep. He seemed to be gassing a little bit, feeling the pace. So I had it 7-1 for Bivol in after 8 rounds. I was starting to worry at this point a little bit for Bivol, because I was just thinking, are they going to actually give him the fight? If it continues like this, are they going to give him the fight? Because we've heard all about the controversy with scorecards surrounding Canelo, especially in Vegas as well. So they at this point, I think in round 8, brought up the CompuBox stats, and Bivol had actually landed double-figure punches in every single round up to that point. So 8 rounds, or 7 rounds. It might have been they said this during round 8, so I'm guessing maybe they were talking about the first 7 rounds, not actually round 8 itself. But those first 7 rounds, according to CompuBox, Bivol had landed double-figure punches in every single round, and Canelo hadn't landed double-figure punches in any round. So that right there would tell you that, quite possibly Bivol could be 7-0 up here. Round 8, like I say, I gave to Bivol as well. Round 9, I actually gave to Canelo. I felt that Bivol went on the attack, and Canelo showed off that sublime head movement that he's got, and he made Bivol hit fresh air quite a lot. So for me, that kind of seemed to, I guess, have an effect on Bivol. He seemed to maybe punch himself out a tiny little bit, and Canelo started to go on the front foot, and he landed more from what I could see there. So I gave him that round. I had it 7-2 after 9. Round 10 I gave to Bivol. Sergio Mora started to pick up on a point that I made on last week's show, that Canelo isn't very fleet-footed. He's got heavy feet, and Sergio Mora was describing that in commentary, and those heavy feet were causing him issues. Round 11, a big round for Dimitri Bivol. He was, the much crisper puncher. The conditioning as well of him needs to be applauded. He looked much fresher than Canelo, and considering the punch output, the concentration and the big fight occasion, it was extremely impressive. 9-2, and then round 12 was a close round. It didn't really matter. Bivol absolutely dominated the fight from what I could see, and I wrote here, if we see Canelo win this or it's a draw, it has to be corruption for me. So yeah, very pleased for Bivol, because as we said, you know, he's a humble, very, very, very humble fighter. Doesn't talk bad on people, stuff like that. A lot of people weren't even interested in this fight because they didn't see that he'd have a chance in hell, and he has, gone away, worked hard very clearly. And I just think that the fight itself, obviously, he was the clear winner in everyone's eyes. And again, I just want to an extra special mention once again to that conditioning that he possessed, that game plan that he followed with the discipline, and just the fact that he didn't let the big fight occasion get to him. I think it was such a special performance, Eddie, and in a way, it was a huge upset in people's eyes, but I want to say it's not going to be upset of the year or anything like that, because Bivol, for those that really do know that he's absolute top quality, and we outlined so many things on last week's show, Eddie, that ended up happening, and I'm happy that we had that discussion in depth. But we talked about the punches in bunches, the quicker feet, the size, the jab, and we talked about how this could give Canelo issues. He had everything to give him issues, and he put it all on display.
Yep, he showed exactly who he was on the night, and it's awesome to see that for him. I'm happy for him. Judges were a little bit off, to say the least. Most I could have said was 8-4. That was the best I could have done, for Canelo. I said, and anytime you judge fights, you got to give it. I mean, I know you can give your own card, and Joe, you gave your card as what you believe to see. There could have been some swing rounds, like you said. It could have easily be 2-1 or in the first 3 rounds, which could have been. And my card was like, it's interesting in the first half of the fight. I wasn't really judging it, like, per round. I was just watching how the fight was going, and I would look at rounds and say, damn. And I was just watching like, wow, Bivol is really doing exactly what we said was possible, right? Like, he was keeping him on the end of the jab. He was throwing odd combinations. Sometimes was throwing, 1-2-1s instead of 1-2-3s. Sometimes 2-1-2s and all kind of crazy combinations and counter shots. And some of the hooks he threw were even more angular, not necessarily hooks. They were almost more straight. And Canelo just wasn't prepared for those kinds of things. And I think another thing should be highlighted too, as talented and as tough and as strong as Canelo is, and then moving up in his weight class. The problem, I think, in this particular situation was Canelo's lack of really planning. I don't think he planned. I think he went in and figured that I'm Canelo. I beat everybody else in these weight classes, basically. Not everybody else, but, I've beaten guys up to this weight. I've beat Kovalev. I feel like, regardless of what Kovalev he beat, I stopped him. So I feel like my punching power, my strength, my overall ability is going to win the fight. My aggressive, my that's why he came in, I think, ultra aggressive. I think he came in trying to put his hands on Bivol, thinking it was going to scare him, thinking it was going to put him kind of like, oh, I'm just going to, stand with my hands up and not fight and not throw. And I think Bivol's thing was he figured as much. I think he understood what he had to do. He said, I got to keep him on the end of my punches. I got to keep this range. I got to keep my left hand in front of him, keep my left hand on him, not allow him to sustain that attack. And if you notice, every single time, with the exception of a few times, his back touched the ropes, he would immediately get to the center, immediately circle to the center. And then he would get Canelo on the ropes. And because you highlighted earlier about his heavy feet and him not really willing to do anything with his feet, he ended up getting himself caught on the ropes, and multiple shots would be thrown. And I think that was the difference. I think it was Dimitri Bivol's ability to keep with his game plan and Canelo's lack of one. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying that Canelo disrespected him or didn't really prepare as he should have. I think he prepared great. I think he was in shape. I think he was ready to go. But I think his lack of really a plan, so to speak, going into the fight, of how he was going to. I think his plan was to I'm going to impress this guy with my power, shock him into basically keeping his hands up and not being really firing back. And I think he really had a real serious misunderstanding of who Dimitri Bivol was. Very proud, great amateur background, great boxer, knew exactly what he needed to do to win. And he kind of went back a little bit to the amateurs a little bit in certain aspects where he was like keeping them on the end of his shots, keeping the range, not allowing him to really get too close, for too long. And game plan, I think, was pretty flawless. And I think if the rematch is going to happen, Canelo's going to have to understand that he's going to have to come off that bravado, come off that, I could just walk guys down and dominate them and bomb them out. It's not going to work with this guy. He's going to have a real game plan. And I have to figure out how to take a page out of Floyd's book a little bit and use range because he has the speed, he has the ability, and I think he could have the feet. It's going to be kind of hard to train it in one camp, but he could. I don't know if he's going to be able to beat Bivol with it, but he definitely can make it a little more interesting than this fight. Because I just think that Bivol, the way he boxed, the way he moved, Canelo's not going to be able to do what he tried to do in this fight. The kid is just too strong. His armor was a lot stronger than he thought it would be. He was able to defend. He wasn't getting hit very much except for on the arms, which I think was by design for Canelo, which was a good plan, but it just took too much out of Canelo and he didn't have enough in the way of a backup plan if that wasn't working. So, all in all, Dimitri Bivol proved he is the elite of the elite. And if there is a rematch, I would be interested to see what adjustments Canelo can make to actually be more competitive, because I don't think this was that competitive, to be honest, in this particular fight. So, and won the next fight. So, interesting. I loved it. I'm happy to see Bivol, win the fight, and he deserved to. And hopefully we'll see a good fight if there's a rematch.
Yeah, and you certainly wouldn't write Canelo off in the rematch either, because we all know how good he is. I remember speaking on last week's show and just kind of highlighting the fact that I guess I didn't say it as clear as I'm about to say it now, but I'm going to say it very clear now. Canelo doesn't really get people out early on. He really doesn't. He tends to come on strong as the fight goes on. He tends to break people's hearts, and it brings me back to the likes of the Plant stoppage in the 11th, the Billy Joe Saunders stoppage in the 8th. He ended up going the distance with Callum Smith. Sergey Kovalev, the stoppage in the 11th. He ended up going the distance with Danny Jacobs. The only time he's knocked people out early, I've skipped over him there, but it's Avni Yildirim and it's Rocky Fielding. Both guys he took out in 3 rounds. But they're way below the level of the guys that I've been mentioning there. Obviously went the distance with Golovkin in 2 back-to-back fights. The fight before that went the distance with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. The fight before that knocks out Liam Smith in round 9. The fight before that he actually goes to round 6 with Amir Khan. He's always been a guy that comes on strong and kind of gets the stoppage late on. So,
True.
So I was waiting to see what was going to happen late on, but Bivol had so much more than I think Canelo expected him to have late on, and it goes back to what I was saying about his conditioning and the unbelievable accuracy, the fact that he put a dent in Canelo pretty much straight away, and I just don't remember Bivol even missing many shots. I mean, Canelo has got such great lateral movement, head movement, but I just don't remember Bivol missing much. And as you said as well, every time he'd be on the ropes, he'd find his way back to the center of the ring. And every time Canelo would land an eye-catching combination, he'd fire straight back. Nothing seemed to faze Bivol at all. Right. I think he was excellent. But yeah, we've got. Sorry, Eddie, go on.
Go ahead. No. I was gonna say I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Anytime, Canelo would mount any kind of an attack, here comes Bivol with something back. And he wasn't going to get the shock from Bivol, like, oh my God, that was so hard. I got to keep my hands up and not be offensive. Just wasn't going to happen. And I think that was the huge difference too.
Yeah, and also I think Bivol's got such a great poker face as well. He was kind of waiting for a reaction, as you say, and he didn't get one at all. And, Bivol, his face never changes no matter what's going on. As I said, gave Canelo 2 rounds. I think at the very best you could probably give him 4, and that's really at the very best. I don't think you can give him 5. You certainly can't give him 6, and never in a trillion years could you give him 7. If the rematch happens, like I say, we're all going to tune in once again. Canelo's going to make a truckload of money once again, and it's not a foregone conclusion when Canelo's involved. We've got to give Canelo credit as well for taking this dangerous fight. A lot of people didn't recognise it as a more dangerous fight than a Benavidez or a Charlo, unfortunately. So he didn't really get the credit. And Bivol, it's kind of in a lot of casual boxing fans' brains, has just come out of nowhere where that completely wasn't the case. Last little topic of discussion on this, Eddie, because we want to bring part 1 to a close quite quickly. But I guess before this fight, I'm not sure who was your number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world, but let's just say for a moment here, was it Canelo or was it not?
Yeah.
It
was
Canelo.
It was
Okay.
Canelo, yeah.
So before the fight, he's a pound for pound number 1. As soon as the fight played out and we got the decision that Bivol had won the fight, Terence Crawford went straight on Twitter to say, now we know who's number 1, obviously speaking about himself. Understandable. Canelo did move, obviously, out of his comfortable weight for this fight here. A loss to Bivol in that fashion, does that mean that he loses the number 1 pound for pound spot? It's such a open discussion. Some people think yes, certainly. Some people think no. Because obviously, if a flyweight, let's talk about Naoya Inoue, for example, a fantastic fighter down there at, is it bantamweight, super bantamweight, whatever, I think it's bantamweight. If he were to take on Tyson Fury at heavyweight, he's going to lose the fight. Doesn't mean that he should lose his position in the pound for pound rankings. So where do you sit on that?
I agree to a degree that it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to lose it, but the problem with this ideology is it's like I see him going up and he beat Kovalev. Yeah. So it's like, he beat Kovalev. It is only one, and it is because he's the undisputed 68 pounder, and there's only one weight class up to 75. So it's kind of hard to say, well, should he lose his spot? But he's really a 160 pounder. But then he's an undisputed at 168. It's a tough question to ask. But if he loses his spot, then dare we say Bivol is he now in the pound for pound conversation as one of the top guys pound for pound? Is that something that catapults him in there? And then Terence Crawford saying that, but Terence Crawford's been pretty safe at 147. And does he have the resume now, even after he did beat Sean Porter, but does he have the resume to be that? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. There's a lot of ifs with this whole pound for pound thing. But Canelo's definitely the most qualified, even after the loss, to be pound for pound number 1, too. Because he is undisputed, only undisputed, I think, or the first 168 pounder. 160, he was, I don't know if he was undisputed. I can't remember there. He was a unified champion there. He beat Triple G, the biggest boogeyman at 160 at the time. He's won other fights. He's beat other top guys. So I think his resume holds to be that. As current, he just lost to Bivol. I don't know. I don't know where I stand on that. That's a tough question. That's a good question, though, Joe. I think that's something you should pose to the listeners. Like, what do they think? Because it's very interesting that.
Well, we're always open to listeners' feedback, certainly when it comes to these hot topics, these debatable discussions, because I was kind of comparing it for good reason to when obviously Lomachenko was being spoke about as like the number 1 or number 2 pound for pound, whatever. Then he lost to Teofimo Lopez, and then all of a sudden Lopez is gate crashing the top 10 list when prior to beating Lomachenko, which we know was a close fight, by the way, some people even scored it to Lomachenko. Prior to that, he didn't really have a fantastic resume. Don't get me wrong, he did bounce Richard Comey off the ground in about 2 rounds, and Comey was a former world champion. That was very impressive, but that was a catastrophic jump up in class from the guys he'd been fighting to Comey, got him out in 2 rounds, and that's another situation where Lomachenko had gone up to a weight class at lightweight where he's not most comfortable, like Canelo's done at 175. Can you put Bivol in? I mean, I don't know, because he's beaten potentially the best fighter in the world pound for pound, but it's because maybe he's at a weight disadvantage that's why you've got the win. I don't know, because again,
it's hard to say.
Look at how Bivol beat Canelo compared to how Lopez beat Lomachenko. That was a close fight. This wasn't in most people's eyes. So
right.
There's no right and wrong answer. It's just, this is why the sport is so just based off of opinions, really. I mean, that's how it is. Let's be completely honest, Eddie. I mean, there's all these sanctioning bodies have got rankings. It's all based on opinions. If they don't think you're the best 15, then you're not going to win a world title. It's impossible.
1,000,000%. That's 100. Like, there's so many guys who could be out of the top 15 or rated in the top 15 in other organizations that are better than the top 15. It's just wild. It's wild how this thing is, but it's 1,000,000% all opinions of the people who are in power. And I think that makes it tough. That makes it tough, because then if not their opinions, then whose opinions? You know what I mean? Would it be the fans? You know what I mean? But then you got to be careful, because then, you know, if we're talking about fans, then you never know how many of these fans are actually knowledgeable. So, you know, I don't know. It's just it's a loaded question. There's a couple great questions, Joe. I gotta say.
Yeah,
I like these.
and as you mentioned as well, just to cap it off, as you mentioned there, that there are guys that are not ranked in the top 15 that would beat guys that are ranked in the top 15, and maybe they're not.
Facts.
They're not in that top 15 because who knows? Maybe they're not with a big promoter, or they haven't been on TV, and they haven't been seen by a worldwide audience to have that demand. But there's also, I'd even go as far as to say there's WBA world champions, or versions of a WBA world champion. I think WBA have got interim champions, regular champions, super champions. There are some title holders that are not as good as some guys that are, let alone in the top 15, probably in the top 30. And it just makes you shrug your shoulders. It is such a... Who knows anything about boxing anymore, Eddie? It's just you can
you can't. It's like this.
No one knows anything.
It's all politics, man. It's like you think the elections are crazy. Go to listen to the rankings in boxing, and you're like, how the hell is this guy here? Like, how is this guy a world champion? He's not even in the top 50 in his other organization. But maybe his promoter has a good relationship with this guy and got him a title shot. And I'm not going to say any names or pick any guys out, but the fact is, it's really bananas how they got this whole thing going. It's crazy. You would think that it would be simpler, you know what I mean? But it's just not. And there's so many different organizations, and there's others like the IBO who's starting to gain more credibility. So now there's a 5th title out there that people want to own, and it's just like, how many champions are we going to have? How can you decipher who's real and who's fake, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And back to the WBA, I think I've told the story on the podcast before. In the past, they actually had a guy in their rankings. He was in the top 15, and I think he was ranked, maybe ranked 14th or something like that. And then he actually passed away, and in the next month's rankings he'd gone up to 11th while being deceased. So get your head around that one.
Whoa,
it's happened.
Oh Lord, that is unreal.
Yeah,
unreal.
That's the headline. A dead guy moves up in rankings with a WBA. But that's a story, if you don't know, for another day. You can Google that one. It is it's tragic, but it's also hilarious for the blooper. Anyway, that brings the review part to a close. That is the end of part 1. The final thing for me to do is to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated WBC and IBF Super-Lightweight Female Champion of the World. It is, of course, Miss Chantelle Cameron. Chantelle, welcome back on the show.
Thanks for having me back on. Hope you're good.
I'm always good when I'm speaking with you, Chantelle. That's the truth. So no problem. We last spoke back in September. It was just a few weeks before your last fight, that unification with Mary McGee. As I say, it was a real pleasure to sit ringside for it. What an amazing fight. I could tell that you had fun in there. How enjoyable was that fight for you, Chantelle, looking back?
I absolutely loved it. Yeah, well, I've always said I wanted a fight where I have to grit down and bite down on my gum shield and show people that I've got what it takes to go through any pace, and I can box, I can fight, I can take a punch, I can give a punch. And I think for that fight kind of proved that. And there was times in that fight where I didn't even have to stand there and trade verbs, but I wanted to. Like, I could have made that a much easier fight if I just boxed. I think I'd say she won about 2 rounds out of 10, and that was just because I was just having fun standing toe to toe. Like, she wasn't hurting me. Like, it was just a good war, really. Like, there's not once where she hurt me. Like, afterwards, my face looked all grazed up and that, but that was from the gloves, no leather marks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I say, it was hard to give her many rounds at all. And yeah, you showed, your fighting, your boxing, even a little bit of wrestling. I think she ended up on the deck at the end of one of the rounds as well.
Yeah. I think that was just to prove that I'm strong.
I felt sorry for her for a second.
Just to let her know. But she done something the other day. I got tagged in something, and I'm just thinking, I'm not even getting into it. I've got my own fight coming up. Like, she's making excuses now that I pushed her to deliberately damage her knee or some rubbish. And I was thinking, oh, shut up. Like, you had hold of me and I flung you. And that was it. There was no plan to bust your knee or anything. I didn't need to do that. I would have outboxed you regardless of a knee injury or not. And I'm not really that malicious to deliberately try to injure someone in the ring. I'm not cheat.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I agree.
I've seen it and I was just like, oh, God, excuses. Like, just take a loss.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, I think she needs to get back in the ring. It's pretty got nothing to do really with our chat today, but she needs to get back in the ring. Obviously, in her spare time, she's been like, no, she is. But in her spare time, I don't know if you've seen her Instagram. She's turned into a little bit of an Instagram comedian instead of fighting recently. But all is well. So
I just got tagged in there, some things saying I'm a dirty fighter. But first of all, it was a weight cut, and now it's a knee, and now I'm a dirty fighter. I tried damaging the knee, and it's like 6 months ago, let it go. You lost, and the rematch will happily happen, but on my terms when it's right for me. Like, my career is moving forward, and I took your belt. That's it.
Yeah.
Go. Do your work and become champion again. But until then, like, my career is not going to be waiting around for give her a rematch.
For sure. And as I say, it was a really excellent fight. It was right up there with, I guess, like Michaela Mayer and Maeva Hamadouche, which was arguably fight of the year last year.
Fight.
Yeah, wicked fight. And obviously, just the other day, another brilliant women's fight, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. What did you think of that? And did you feel that the right lady won?
I do think the right lady won. I think it was a close fight. And to be fair, I think it could have gone either way. I think if Serrano got the decision, you wouldn't complain. Katie got the decision, you can't complain. It was a very, very good fight. And obviously, I think the 5th round, Amanda almost had her out of there. And I thought, bloody hell, like, coming into the 6th, how's Katie going to be? But I tell you what, Katie showed some heart and courage because she got through it and she started nicking the rounds again. But, what a fight. Incredible.
Yeah, it really was. It was excellent. After your fight with McGee, you, of course, travelled out to the States yourself. You were ringside for Callie Reese against Jessica Kamara. You did this because we were told about this mini tournament between the winner of your fight, the winner of their fight. I haven't heard anything else about the final. What is going on with that, Chantelle?
Do you know what? You know more than me. I have no idea. Literally no idea. So it's been a bit of a rubbish time for me because I had that fight, won the semi-final, and then I was told February, March I was going to be fighting the final. That's why I went over to America to watch their semi-final to see who I'll be facing. Then I was told the final will be happening in February, March, but I did see an interview with Kelly Reese where I think it was a Shadowbox or someone saying that her body needs a rest and she won't be fighting till May, June. And I thought, oh, that's a bit weird because I've been told February, March, but I thought nothing of it, thinking it must just be mixed wires or something. And then got to January and there was no fight day, heard absolutely nothing. Then I started thinking, like, what is going on? Like, why have I not heard about anything? So my team were chasing it and seeing like what was going on. And then we got told there was some medical issues. So it was okay, like, well, what's that going to mean for the fight? Is how long's the delay going to be? Like, kind of, we wanted answers, especially for me because I was up there and I wanted to be active, obviously, out there, keeping busy, get my profile built more because I don't think my profile is like doing any good at all at the moment. And we were still waiting. And I think it was like end of February, we was told Caddy's not going to be ready. They were looking at an interim fight for me. I was told that will be April, but didn't get the fight in April. And then luckily I've been put on May the 21st bill and I'm going to have a title defense against Victoria Bustos. But obviously that's my main focus now. I think if I lose to Victoria Bustos, then my belts have gone anyway. So that is my main focus. But beyond, like, after that, as long as I get through Victoria, I still have no idea about the final, if it's going to happen or not. So I don't really know where that stands at all.
Yeah, that's a great shame because, like I say, I mean, both fights were really good fights as well. Like, your fight with McGee was good. The Kamara and Reese fight was really good. I mean, it was quite controversial. Yeah. A lot of people felt Kamara did enough to win. And then it kind of, it made, I think, everyone quite excited for the final, really. Yeah. So
it was.
It's really sad.
The hype was around it. And the hype was around it. I just had my win. She just had her win. And it was building. It was like the first female tournament as well for Undisputed. Like, there was a lot of hype around it. And then literally it just stopped and it just went under the radar. And it was like, what's happening with this tournament? It's just completely just gone under the radar. And then my whole career went under the radar because nothing was going on for me. So I lost sponsors. People were saying, like, what's going on, Chantelle? What happened to the fight? And I couldn't give anyone an answer. And it just basically just put my career back again because it's not been a good image for me. And people that were sponsoring me, like, they've not been very satisfied because obviously I'm not getting promoted and stuff. They're not getting anything from their sponsorship deal and that. But luckily I've had a few loyal ones that have stood by me. But with the Kamara fight, like I said, I thought Kamara won. And that's what the most frustrating thing is if Kamara did get that decision, the fight would have happened by now. So it's quite a bitter one for me because I think, just what bad luck.
Yeah, you haven't had it easy outside of the ring, I tell you, man. I mean, you know that yourself.
Yeah.
It's been a rough ride.
Someone looking down at me thinking this girl is not going to get where she wants to get to anytime soon.
Oh man, don't say that. You've been excellent. Obviously, everything's fantastic. You got 2 of the belts. You're number 1 in the world. I think everyone really knows that. And you know, I think maybe when Katie Taylor retires, everything's gonna start picking up. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Hopefully, then the boxing people start looking after me a bit better and actually start giving me the opportunities.
Yeah, and talking of, I guess, bad
luck. It's a bit
luck.
Frustrating.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And talking of bad luck and stuff like that, I've got to ask, how is Jack Catterall getting on? I haven't spoken to him or anything recently. I haven't spoken to him since the fight, really. But is he okay now?
Yeah, he's back in the gym. He's been back in the gym for a while now, to be honest. He's just ticking over, back in the gym. And I think himself, he's just waiting for his date. But he's been helping me prepare for this fight as well. He did some rounds with me the other day.
Oh, brilliant. And
can't get better start now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I was wondering. I was thinking you're like the same weight. I reckon you've probably done a few rounds, so I'm not surprised to hear it. Your next fight, obviously, as you mentioned, May 21st, back at the O2 again. It's going to be part of that Boatsy Richards undercard. You'll be boxing, as you mentioned, Victoria Bustos of Argentina, former 2-weight world champion. What else do you know about her, Chantelle?
She's tough. She's durable. She's boxed all the top girls. She boxed Katie, she boxed McCaskill, she's boxed Cecilia. So, do you know what I mean? She's been in there with world-class operators. So, for me, it's to prove myself. I've got a massive point to prove, and I think that's what I've got to do is show people, like, don't put me in a corner and don't forget about me. Like, I'm still here, and I've got to put on a good performance to make people remember that.
And obviously, you didn't just mention there, but I'm sure you know already, she's never been stopped. I'm guessing that's something that really excites you. I know the way you think. Yeah,
but like I say, I never looked for the stoppage. But
I don't believe you.
Like Jamie and that is saying, like, she's never been stopped. Like, this is a good chance. Yeah. But I'm not going to go looking for it. But I'm feeling strong. I've been doing a lot of work with Kelly K's, and I never felt so strong. So yeah, I'll just let my hands go, and I don't talk the talk. You've got to walk the walk, and I.
And obviously, we do really badly want to see that Callie Reese fight. I'm sure she's on the top of your radar. You want to be undisputed. Is there anyone else who comes close to her on your radar just yet?
You know what? I think it's because of the last few months. It was all I was focused on is undisputed and having all the belts and stuff, but I kind of now I'm just like, I just want to fight. Like, I just want to be active and I want to be fighting, and that's it. I think I put so much of my heart into becoming undisputed and being so determined and so adamant I was going to become undisputed champion. And with this big delay and then not knowing what's happening, I think I've kind of had to take myself away from that because it just makes me a bit angry and a bit frustrated. So I'm just like, get through Victoria, and then whatever happens after that happens. But as long as I'm kept busy and as long as I'm acting, as long as I'm put out there more.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just finally, before we wrap it up, Chantelle, if you've got any closing words just to the listeners, I always like to give you an opportunity just to sign out with a message or anything that you want to say before we let you go. So take it away.
Hopefully you can tune in May the 21st on the Zone, because I'm looking to put on a big performance and a big statement. I've missed being in the ring and having a scrap, so May the 21st is going to be all guns blazing.
All guns blazing back at the O2, as we say, against Bustos, a lady that's never been stopped. Chantelle, I think, has got a lot of frustration to let out. Listen, Chantelle, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Best of luck for May 21st, and we'll speak sometime after.
Appreciate that. Thanks for your time.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with this one. It takes place June 11th. It's a double card on BT Sports. So the headliner in the UK, this one goes down in Telford. We're going to see Mark Leach, who's coming off that brilliant win last time out. I can't remember who he beat now. I think he beat a guy at York Hall. He gets in with Liam Davies. That's going to be a really, really good fight there. Liam Davies, I think I've seen once or twice live. So that's a brilliant fight there. Also on the undercard as well, we get to see the third fight between Casey Kademi, friend of the show, and Ayaz Ahmed. So yeah, I think the first fight was a win for Ahmed, and the second fight was a draw, and this is the third fight, so we shall see what happens there. That's going to be great. That's about it for that one, but that's the UK card. Then it goes over to the States. I'm not sure how they're going to do this, if the timing's going to go straight from the UK to the US, or if there's going to be some kind of break in the middle, but we're going to see 2 cards in one night there. And the headliner that takes place in the US, we're going to see, I kind of alluded to him a little bit without saying his name. I spoke about WBA title holders not perhaps being as good as some of the guys in the rankings. And yeah, Trevor Bryan, 22-0, 15 KOs, defends his WBA world title against Daniel Dubois, 17-1, 16 KOs. Someone going to sleep there for sure, I'd say. So yeah, that's June 11th. Go on.
Wow. I'm sorry, Joe. I just had to say it. It's funny that you were saying what you were saying because that was the exact thing I was thinking. No disrespect, and I didn't want to say names, but that is crazy how that is exactly the person that I was thinking, like, how did this happen? But, hey, it's boxing.
Oh, man. Okay. June 11th again, this one at the Madison Square Garden. Edgar Berlanga gets in with Alexis Angulo. It's not a fight I particularly like, but I think that's giving Berlanga a chance to get back on the knockout runs and stuff. Again, we spoke to David Benavidez on last week's show. It was cool when I asked him about Berlanga, and he was saying that he needs to stop calling me out if he's not ready for the fight, because I'm here ready, waiting for the fight, and when the fight will happen, he will be knocked out. So there was some fighting talk there from Benavidez, who is admittedly a few levels above Berlanga at the moment. And on the undercard as well, Xander Zayas, the Puerto Rican phenom, I think it's fair to say at this stage, he's going to be on that undercard as well. So yeah, that's June 11th, so a lot going on there. What else do we have? Ben Whittaker, the Olympic silver medalist, just won at Olympic silver at the Tokyo 2020/2021 Games last year. He has signed a promotional contract with Boxer, so he's going to be boxing on Sky Sports, so that's fantastic for Sky Sports subscribers. What else do we have? I think this is the final piece of news. Jason Maloney gets in with Aston Palicte. That's a bantamweight fight there. That is part of the undercard that we're going to see on June 4th between that's on the undercard of Devin Haney and George Kambosos. Another one who, I don't want to get back to what we were talking about in part one, but George Kambosos has just beaten Teofimo Lopez. If Lopez was in the rankings, then can Kambosos get in the rankings? No one's really talking about him in the top 10 or anything like that. And he's also got wins over former world champions Mickey Bay and Lee Selby. So more than the likes of Haney, more than the likes of Teofimo Lopez. So I don't know, it's just crazy, this boxing ranking stuff. But anyways, so yeah, on his undercard, on Kambosos and Haney's undercard, we're going to see Jason Maloney against Aston Palicte, and also a heavyweight showdown between Junior Farr and Lucas Brown. I love Lucas Brown, friend of the show, but I can't quite believe he's still fighting, and he's getting in another really dangerous fight here. I cannot see anything else apart from him being knocked out early as well. So, yeah, I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Anyway, that's it for the news part of the show. Moving out now to tomorrow night, Friday the 13th. Is there going to be some unlucky stuff going down? We shall see. It's going down, though, at the Indigo at the O2 in Greenwich, London. This one's going to be on Channel 5. Wow, I didn't expect that. I'm going to definitely set that up to tape or watch it live. I think the main event is Linus Udofia, 17-0, getting in with Denzel Bentley, 15-1 with a draw. Both guys 17 fights into their pro career. Denzel Bentley, of course, mixed it at a slightly higher level and also picked up a loss in doing so when he got erased by Felix Cash, when Felix Cash really shone through. I think he was even the underdog, if I'm not mistaken. This one's for the vacant British middleweight title. That's going to be a brilliant fight. Really looking forward to it because Udofia has come through on the small hall circuit. Hasn't... I don't know, it's hard to say. I don't think I'd say he's had it the hard way as such, but he has improved recently. And I think because he's improved recently, this has made the fight a lot bigger. I think Bentley, in my eyes, is still... the favourite in my eyes, but actually with the bookies they cannot split them. They're exactly the same price, which is bad because neither of them you can double your money on. It's just slightly underneath that. So yeah, it's almost terrible for betting on that fight there. But yeah, I think Denzel Bentley should should have too much for Udofi, but we'll see. Return to the ring for friend of the show, Josh Kelly, 10-1 with a draw. I want to say it's his first fight back after losing to David Avanesian. He's in a 10-rounder here against Zulio Vrenozzi. I think I've seen the name before. 18-4 over 10 rounds. Been stopped 3 times in those 4 losses, and I have totally forgotten who he's been in with, so I'm just going to quickly double check there. Definitely seen that name before. Vrenozzi. Been stopped by Linus Udofia. Yeah, that's probably where I remember it from. I'm sure that was on a Sky card. Back in October of last year. Also, as I say, picked up another couple losses. Okay. Elsewhere on the card, really good fight between Harlem Eubank, 13-0, another friend of the show, in a 10-rounder against Sean Mashadod, who's 17-6 with a draw. Sean Mashadod as well came up short last time out because he was it was really sad actually. He was in a real dark place outside of boxing, and then he returned and he was trying to win that Ultimate Boxer tournament where they fight over 3 rounds, and he just about lost it in the final against I think it was the final against Corey Gibbs, or maybe he didn't get to the final. I can't quite remember now, but Corey Gibbs is a good fighter who went in undefeated and came out undefeated. He won the whole thing, but it was a really close fight with Corey Gibbs and Sean Dodd. I think Sean Dodd might have even done enough just to nick it, so it was a bit of a sad way for him to come back. Yeah, he did lose in the quarterfinal, I think it was. So gutted for him, but happy to see him get another opportunity. I just think Harlem Eubank might be a little bit too fresh, too athletic for him. We'll see. Brad Pauls, 15-0 in a 10-rounder against Ryan Kelly, who's 16-3. Katarina Fanders, 13-1. The one loss came to Terry Harper for the world title about a year or so ago. She gets in with Gel, who's 4-6. Harvey Horn as well, 9-1. No opponent just yet for him. Moving out now to France. It's a heavyweight fight that's been cancelled and rescheduled quite a few times. I was looking forward to it the minute it got made, and it seems like that was about a year ago, and since then nothing's happened, and I'm so happy it's finally going ahead. But Tony Yoka, 11-0, the Olympic gold medalist, gets in with Martin Bakole, 17-1. The one loss came, of course, to Michael Hunter when he got stopped in the last 30 seconds of their 10-round contest in London. Again, we've heard so many brilliant things about Martin Bakole. He's going to for sure be the next heavyweight champion from Africa, and sparred with Joshua, done lots of things in the gym, beaten up all these guys, had great sparring with Joe Joyce, given Anthony Joshua kittens in the gym. All these stories that you hear about these heavyweights, you never know what to believe, but the general consensus was that this guy had a hell of a lot of talent and was going straight to the top. And obviously got in there with Michael Hunter. I don't know what happened there. Maybe they underestimated him. Maybe Michael Hunter was just a bit better than some people over here thought he was. And I was there ringside for that fight, and Michael Hunter absolutely beat the hell out of him. And he didn't actually go down, did he? He actually stayed on his feet but got stopped. Because he couldn't defend himself in the end. He was just getting his head smashed left and right. But he's a very tough guy. So actually, I think there might be some value in that fight going the distance. Whether or not they're going to give Bakole the decision, I'm not sure. But I feel like we're going to find out a hell of a lot about Bakole and Yoka. If Yoka can come through Bakole, especially if he can stop him, that's a major statement there. And if Bakole can beat Yoka by taking him out or completely dominating him, then that's amazing as well. That looks good for Michael Hunter. So really interested in that fight for random reasons, but I'm going to find a way to watch that one because for me, I'm very, very interested in it. Moving out now, it's a random one, but I'm just going to throw it out there. It takes place in Istanbul, Turkey. Avni Yildirim, 24-4, fighting here for the vacant WBC Asian Boxing Council super middleweight title. 24-4, Yildirim. He beat in his last fight Yusuf Kangwell, who is 20-5 with a draw, and now they're having the rematch. Not sure why, because Avni Yildirim absolutely shut Canguel out in the first fight, and they're having their second fight here, and it's for a title. So, not sure what the point of it is, but I'm sure Yildirim's going to probably pick up a WBC ranking with it, because God knows how he become Canelo's mandatory that time. I mean, what the hell's going on? We don't understand these rankings. We've already said that 5 or 6 times this week. Moving out now to Dubai. This one, of course, is going to be on top of a hotel with a boxing ring on a helipad. It's never been done before, and who knows what the future holds. But anyways, main event, it's an exhibition, of course. I'm not sure how many rounds it is. I haven't really been interested in how many rounds it is, how long the rounds are, if there's going to be headgear, all the rest of that stuff. Haven't looked at any of it, what the rules are going to be, but all I know is Floyd Mayweather coming back in the ring in an exhibition. Obviously, last time we seen him in a ring in an exhibition was against Logan Paul, and he didn't look too good there. He gets in with Don Moore, dangerous Don Moore, who is actually an undefeated pro, which I don't think everyone knew. He's 18-0 with a draw as a pro, so a real fighter from Indiana. Hasn't boxed though for almost 6 years. I think he's 42 years of age now, 5'10" in height, and he was a featherweight really at his best. So even though his last fight was at 147 6 years ago, or almost 6 years ago, so yeah, not sure if it's going to be much of a contest, but he is getting in with someone who can fight. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the undercard, the more legitimate fights. We've got Badu Jack, 25-3 with 3 draws, friend of the show in a 12-rounder. No title on the line, though. He gets in with Haney Atillo, who's 17-5. Bit of a pointless fight, really. We also see Katie Taylor, victim Delphine Passoon, 46-3, having her 50th fight. The part-time policewoman, part-time boxer. 10 2-minute rounds for the vacant WBC Silver Female Super Featherweight title against Elhem McKhalid, who's 15-0. Moving out now to the final. We've got 3 cards actually to go over. Let's start with this one here. I'm going to run through this one here. Dignity Health Sports Park. It's going to be on Showtime, Carson, California, of course. Undercard, not really up to much apart from this one. Almost missed out on this one here. Jaron Ennis, friend of the show, back in action. 28-0 in a 12-rounder against Custio Clayton. 19-0 with a draw. I want to say Clayton is like ranked somewhere in the very top of one of the rankings, so maybe this is some kind of eliminator. I'd guess it probably is. I think it could be an eliminator for Errol Spence's IBF title, maybe, or maybe I'm just completely making it up. But anyway, should be a good fight. 2 undefeated fighters getting it on. So yeah, all the best to Ennis, friend of the show. And the main event, Jamel Charlo, 34-1 with a draw, defending all 4 of the major titles. An undisputed fight. We always love them in boxing. He gets in with Brian Castaño of Argentina, 17-0 with 2 draws. Both men held on to their undefeated, no, not undefeated, because Charlo does have that one loss, doesn't he, to Harrison, which he avenged. I almost forgot. But anyway, both guys managed to not lose, not win, and they had a draw. It was very controversial. Most people felt Castaño did enough to win, and they're getting it on again. So credit to both guys, credit more so to Charlo for wanting that rematch and wanting to, to prove that that was a little bit of a hiccup like he did against Harrison. So very, very intrigued to see how it's going to play out. So tough, really. So tough to pick a winner. Remember, Castaño had a real good amateur career, beat some real good fighters in the amateurs, including Errol Spence. So yeah, great fight there. Cannot wait to see it unfold. This one I think is going to be on Fight TV at the Forum in Inglewood, California. This one over here, Fernando Vargas Jr., 5-0 in a 6-rounder against Terrence Harmon, who is 3-0. We've got Amado Vargas, who's 3-0 in a 4-rounder against... wow, I'm actually not going to say this guy's name because I almost swore. Yeah, he's got a record of... Jesus Christ. Should I just say it, Eddie?
Absolutely. I think you should. Or try.
Okay, so Amado Vargas 3-0 in a 4-rounder against Anal Dudo.
Oh no. His name is not Anal. Ah, you can't say that. Oh,
I like
hey,
the
Joe.
surname.
Dudo. Anal.
Dudo.
Ah, that could be Anal Doo-Doo too if you want to do it. Oh, man.
Please.
You know what? Let's stop with the
Yeah,
name.
let's stop.
You know, this dude is gonna be a serious fighter.
1-3 as a pro. I wish it was like 0-2 or 2-2 just to. Yeah, anyways, let's move away from that one. Also, Emiliano Vargas as well, making his pro debut over 4 rounds against Mark Salgado. So we've got, I think, all 3 of Fernando Vargas' sons fighting on this card here. Amazing. Talking of famous sons, Evan Holyfield as well, 9-0 in a 6-rounder against Jermaine McDonald, who's 6-5. We've got Kubrat Pulev, 28-2 in a 10-rounder against Jerry Forrest, 26-4 with 2 draws coming off that loss. Not that loss, that draw with Michael Hunter last time out. In a fight where you could argue that he did enough to beat Hunter, to be honest, even though Hunter beat him convincingly 7 years, I think it was 7 years prior. There's a few behind the scenes things as to why Michael didn't look as good as what he should have done in that second fight that I'm referencing to here. But that's nothing to do with Forrest, and Forrest, looked really, really, really good, to be honest, in that fight there. So him against Kubrat Pulev, who's got to be about 41 or something now, could be interesting, to be honest with you. So, yeah, maybe there's some value in Jerry Forrest, but Jerry Forrest has let me down a few times when I've fancied him as an underdog. But yeah, we'll see. He's in good form. And the main event, Sergey Kovalev, 34-4 with a draw in a 10-rounder at cruiserweight against Tavel Pulev, the undefeated younger brother of Kubrat Pulev. Even though he's his younger brother, he's still about 39 years of age, 16-0 the cruiserweight. Sergey Kovalev again moving up in weight, packing on those 25 pounds. Going to be interesting to see what he looks like. I think you've got a probably edge to Kovalev. He's a favourite, but he's kind of close on the when I've looked at it. And I want to say that Pulev would probably still be older than Kovalev in terms of his age, probably not in terms of the mileage on the clock, but it's just a weird fight that I'm going to definitely try and tune into. And then the final card to mention, it takes place at the Toyota Arena in Ontario, California, USA. It's going to be on DAZN. The undercard, one real good fight to mention. I think there's no way that this fight is going to disappoint when it comes to action. We've got William Zepeda, always in a great fight, 25-0 in a 10-rounder against Rene Alvarado, former world champion, 32-11. You'd obviously have to favour Zepeda. I think he's going to be much fresher and stronger. Looks unbelievable, looks unstoppable, to be honest, at the moment. People are talking about him getting in with someone like Gervonta Davis. Like, people are kind of excited about the potential fight there. It's for the WBA Continental Americas lightweight title, but I think that's going to be full of action. And the main event, Gilberto Ramirez, 43-0. Getting in with Dominic Bozell, 32-2. I think Bozell, German fighter, I believe, could have been a former European champion. He was around about European level at the peak of his powers. 2 losses, can't remember who they were to now, but I think they were for European titles in a 12-rounder here against Ramirez. Earlier this week, Oscar De La Hoya, Gilberto Ramirez's promoter, I think just was joking around with the media when he said that they're going to try to get Ramirez to 52-0 and then retire just to beat Floyd's record. But at the same time, you never know what to believe with Oscar De La Hoya when it comes to Floyd, because there's a bit of an agenda there. And the way they've been moving Ramirez, how on earth he's got to 43-0, with that thin resume, I'll never ever know. I know he's from, the tough, mean streets of Mexico, and he hasn't had it easy. I think, he hasn't had it easy, to be honest. He didn't get to the top level for a long time. He had to do a lot to kind of get noticed, really. And I want to say, like, he's had a long pro career. I don't think he did too much as an amateur. Kind of had to learn on the job when he turned pro, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, you know, he is good. He's a really good fighter, and I'm not sure why he isn't boxing for world titles, because he was a world champion when he was at was it 168? I think he was at, and he beat Jesse Hart a couple times there. Jesse Hart pushed him close as well, and then moves up to 175 and just doesn't decide to be placed in that mandatory position, which you can do if you're a WBO champion. You move up in weight, you can be put straight in as the mandatory if you want to, and you'll get a shot very quickly. He decided to not do that, so you never know. Maybe they really are going for 52 and 0. We shall see, and it's going to be challenging to get there, because again, I've seen little things in his recent fights where he doesn't seem to be the same fighter he was maybe 5 years ago. So we shall see. So there's a lot of fights on this weekend, whether you're going to be tuning into what's going down in Paris between Tony Yoka and Martin Bacoli, or you're going to be tuning into what's going down in Dubai with Dangerous Don Moore and Floyd Mayweather, whether you're going to be tuning into California, what's going down there in Carson, California on Showtime between Charlo and Castaño, probably the best fight really of the weekend. Great to see that rematch, you know, finally taking place. Obviously, Jaron Ennis on the undercard in a great fight, 2 undefeated fighters. Or you might be tuning into, as I say, the Kovalev and Pulev card. I think we're going to have Cypress Hill doing some kind of performance as well on Fight TV for that one. Or will you be watching DAZN with Gilberto Ramirez, one of the longest win streaks currently in boxing, trying to get to 44-0 against Dominic Bozell of Germany. Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, that brings the preview part to a close. The final thing for me to do before we wrap up the show is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 343 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge thank you to our special guest, the reigning and undefeated IBF and WBC Super-Lightweight Female World Champion Chantelle Cameron. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. There has been one piece of news break whilst we've been recording the show. Friend of the show, Jessica McCaskill, will be defending her undisputed crown against Alma Ibarra as part of that Rodriguez Rungvisai undercard. Once again, that is June 25th, live on DAZN in San Antonio, Texas. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.